One of the most common vibe coding traps I find myself falling into is biting off more than I can chew.
But we did get some, oh no, it didn't even use the data.
This happens in many forms, including maybe it's an app I'm not ready to tackle yet. But more fundamentally, what happens if no one actually will use the thing you just built? Whether it's a directory or micro SaaS, some kind of app, you want to do market research to make sure there's a need for it, that it's solving someone's problem. So in this video, I'm going to show you a bit from our workshop in the AI Captains community where I showed how to use AI to do market research to find the data you need to make the best decisions for your business. And we'll do this with just Claude Code, subagents, and an MCP server. You really don't even need an IDE. You could literally do this all in the command line if you wanted. It's super simple. So first I'm going to show you what I've been using this for recently for my new business, and then we're going to jump into an actual basic market research project. So whether you're building a directory or any kind of online business, this is an important workflow to follow and improve upon on any builder's entrepreneurial journey. Let's get started. I'm calling it AI Captains version 2 because really it's just me finally figuring out everything about the brand that I didn't know in the beginning. So in the beginning, I just made a YouTube channel and I was just like, I'm going to share stuff, that I like, that I know, that I'm learning. And so I started sharing it and it's, evolving and I'm like, okay, cool. Everyone's interested in some of these things I'm sharing. So now I'm actually giving it a full-on brand personality. Here are the official colors. This is the brand style guide. And version 2 is, okay, what is the brand? What is the messaging? What is who is the exact audience? And I think I deleted most of these files because I didn't like how they looked. So the first thing is I'll show you how I did this in just a minute, but this is just the results. So I have a subreddit lead database. So it scraped all these different subreddits for the type of person that is who we're trying to talk to. And Ken and I had a call last week trying to figure this out. And we ended up with a nice little brainstorm. And Dino, you're one of the archetypes. We have two main camps, the Dinos and the more technical professionals. So I guess, Drew, you're kind of a Dino. There's gonna be things in the middle, right? Which is what we finally figured out. The Dinos are the not so technical entrepreneurs, but they have the ideas, they know about business. And then the technical professionals, they're more coming from a coding background, developer background, but they've never really made a business before. But what unifies everyone is the AI. So by the way, this is Obsidian.
Yeah, I keep hearing about that. What is that?
Yeah, it's just like Notion, except it's just on your computer. It's not for sharing pages. But what I have is the Obsidian MCP. So this is a markdown file here. You can brand architecture positioning strategy. If you're looking in an IDE, you see the text, you see the markdown syntax, right? Header 1, header 2.
Yeah.
But in Obsidian, it just automatically does all that. So I always tell my agent in my IDE to send it over to Obsidian in an organized fashion so I don't have to look at it like this, you know what I mean? With all the syntax. So here I can just read through it. So the first thing the research gave me is a lead database. This is all the research. An analysis of hey, what unifies the Dinos and the coders and the technical people, right? What unifies all of us? And so it started figuring that out based on what it found on Reddit. So it went through WordPress, Webflow, WordPress builders, Webflow designers, mid-senior developers, domain experts, and consultants. Then we found the pain points across all segments, which then you see really transcend what you know already, what you have experience in. So it's AI implementation paralysis. There's too much going on. How do I just get better at it without being overwhelmed? Skill gap overwhelm. It seems insurmountable. You feel like you might have imposter syndrome. It's just a ton to try to figure out. AI replacement anxiety. Oh man, I gotta figure this out so I can keep my job, or I gotta figure this out so I can compete in business. Time scarcity. I got to do this fast, right? And I have to balance learning with professional responsibilities. I can't just learn all day. Community isolation. It can be hard to find a community that's learning the same stuff in the same way. And that's why we're here. So this was all really well done. Now I obviously had an idea of all this stuff, but by doing the research with the agents and scraping Reddit, it no longer had to be my idea. It became data-based. Right? Data-based. It became based on data. It's real. There's real people out there experiencing this stuff. So it came up with the primary avatar, the AI curious professional. Here's their age range. Here's their professional experience, income range, education, location. Now, I don't know how much of this is made up versus what was actually researched. I don't know if all this age range stuff is really on Reddit, but it does feel pretty accurate if we just think of those pain points where people are coming from. the distribution of people's backgrounds, WordPress, CMS builders, mid-senior developers, digital designers, domain experts or consultants, and other technical professionals. And I'm pretty sure everyone in this chat room right now, we all fall into one of these 5 categories, no? No matter what brought us here, we all come from one of these. So we got sub-brands, which this is an example of Claude Code taking things too far. And I want to make a video about this too, is how if you don't rein Claude Code in, it just goes and it'll just do anything. And you're like, wait a minute, that's not what I wanted. That's not what I wanted. Like, you took it too far, but it'll just keep going. So like, it made the Builder Edition, the Professional Edition, and the Enterprise. Now, it's not to say this isn't accurate, but like, I'm working on the MVP of version 2 here, right? I'm trying to just figure out who this is for, fix the marketing so I can put up an ad campaign and be done. But now instead, Claude Code took it to the next level and said, okay, here's Professional Edition. This is how you're going to expand to the market, charge more money. And this is where a mid to high ticket offer comes in for like real professionals, like developers or whatever, that are like, all right, I'm willing to invest some of my savings into this so I can really make sure I'm on good footing for this next age of AI. And then Enterprise, I haven't even thought about this yet, but I guess this is where the big bucks come in if we ever want to make an exit, right? Enterprise, agency teams, corporate training. I don't know if Enterprise will ever come into fruition. Once again, this is Claude Code, just, given its above and beyond actions. So yeah, stage by stage optimization, community strategy, marketing campaign strategy, and the brand voice guidelines. So then I was like, okay, great. I want to share this with Ken. I want to share this with people that might want to be a part of the team. So the first thing I did was I put the brand style guide. I did this a couple weeks ago, which I just showed you. I put this here on the internet. And the next thing I was like, okay, I'm going to make something like this, where then we can actually just browse through all this content and read it like it's a website or something. So it's just easier to interface with. So what ended up happening is I get the same problems as I do with Claude Code because it takes things too far. So I ended up just deleting a bunch of these files yesterday because I was like, I don't like this. It's just too far. But I like this style, which is why I kept it. So it's like the brand architecture positioning strategy, and I've got a nice little thing over here, right? Table of contents. And this is really helpful to have for any business, any brand, even if it's just making content. Like, you want to have a single source of truth for everything. And then when you hire someone, it makes things easier. Like, you want to have all of this documented, because then like, if you're unsure of something, how do I write this email? How do I write this YouTube script? How do I put this copy on my sales page? The answer is always here. And then if you have all these in Markdown files, then when I open up Claude Code, I can literally just take this folder, drag it in here, go based on our brand docs, write a 5 email nurturing sequence, right? Or whatever I'm trying to do. So then I'm making like a knowledge base with all this data. So then anytime I'm working on the business, I give this as context to Claude Code, and so it knows. And then if I'm saying, hey, find me 100 leads to message this week, then it knows where to look because we have the subreddit lead page, right? So this is like, I'm finding like super important no matter what you're doing to have a lot of this figured out. So unless someone has questions, I want to show you how to do this on Claude Code. Okay, so first thing I do is I go into plan mode, and what are we going to do here? Does anyone have anything to research?
Injury attorneys, personal injury attorneys.
And what's the project? Is it your directory?
I have a site directory I haven't put any data on.
Where do they normally hang out? LinkedIn?
I would say LinkedIn is one for sure, but I would say Google Maps, Google Places, like they obviously have physical place.
Oh yeah, because you're just making a list, a directory of the, okay. So let's do it then. I'm actually gonna start a brand new folder so this isn't all confusing. Cursor is a fork of Visual Studio Code, Dino. Visual Studio Code is open source, so literally it's really easy to switch. And it's
I have both. I managed to install both, but
I would say paying $20 for a Claude subscription and using Claude Code on VS Code is going to be more effective than paying $20 to Cursor.
Yeah, true. I got a year of free Cursor, so I wanted to.
That's right. You got that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Then. All right. So I'm going to open up Claude, and notice this is all empty. Okay. Nothing's here. This is like my favorite thing to do in the world right now. All right. So we'll go into plan mode. I mean, other than, be with my wife. So we'll say we need to scrape, I'll say 10 personal injury attorneys for a directory in a certain state.
Sure, we could do Florida.
In Florida. And then we also need to scrape Reddit to learn why people need a personal injury attorney and or why they're having trouble finding one, right? Something like that, right? Use Apify, MCP, actors. Now, if you want to do this like the best way, find the MCP on your own. Like, I'm simply just saying find the best one. Same thing with the agents. I just say find the best one. But like we can look like Reddit scraper here, right? $1.80 for 1,000 results. You could literally run this. You could run this in here. You could run this in an API, or you can run this straight through the MCP, which is what we're doing. And it's funny because when I started making the course and everything, I was really into Crawley, and Crawley is Apify's open source scraper, like Crawl for AI. So it's here somewhere. Yeah, this is by Apify. And so they give you all the code to make your own scrapers and actors. So all of these actors on Apify are more or less, I think, started with Crawley. So if you want to save the money, you can just use Crawley. That's the big point here. But it's going to cost you time to fine tune it. Scraping Reddit is not always easy. Scraping LinkedIn is even harder, right? These actors just can do it. They just know how to do it. So if we want to scrape Reddit, I'll search for Reddit Scraper Lite, pay per result, unlimited Reddit Redweb scraper to crawl posts, mass Reddit Scraper Pro fast. There's all these different scrapers, right? If I just go to Scraper Lite, we'll pay per event, $20 for 1,000. So that's a little expensive. Let's just say use the best and most cost-efficient Apify MCP actor to scrape Reddit. There we go. Finally, use the best subagents to synthesize the data into a pain point problem solution document for a directory that will list personal injury attorneys. And then I'll just say it one more time. Use the best subagents for each task. Ask me if you have any questions. And we're in plan mode and we send that off. So Apify MCP now will scrape Reddit to find out what people are struggling with in regards to personal injury attorney, and then we'll synthesize that data. We might even do more market research after, actually, but okay, so now it's asking me some questions. Should I search specific subreddits? Yes, specific subreddits. Recent discussions? Yes. Yes. What, last 6 months? Geographic focus, Florida. Well, yeah, Florida, why not? That's really pinpointing it. You might not need that for the directory, but for fun and games, let's just see. Volume, let's spend no more than $2. 5, output format, no, just markdown. I should note that before I can use Apify tools, I'll need to search. Yeah, so it's going to call the tools and then take care of everything before it actually starts scraping. It has to find out what to do. And that's one of the tools the Apify MCP actor offers. So there's the plan. And the first thing it wants to do is search actors. So the actors MCP server has these different tools, and this tool is search the actors for the Reddit scraper. And so it's literally going to do the same thing I was just doing right here, except it's going to do it as an artificially intelligent robot that can consume and interpret data a lot faster than me. It's already got it started, found the one to use. This is the one that my codes are always using. And it's, yeah, $1.80 for 1,000. So it's probably not going to go farther than more than 1,000 threads.
I love that approach.
What, using the MCP?
Yeah, the MCP, but more than that, just specifically before even going to scrape the attorney, like why people are even looking for the attorney.
Well, yeah, this is what we're learning, like for the AI captains thing, is like this is a really big part of starting a business. Is you got to make sure you're solving a real problem for people. You know, you can assume, and you know, oftentimes, enough times you can make assumptions and it works, but you know, if you can really understand people's pain and provide a solution for them, then you have a business. But if you just want to force a solution on someone that doesn't have the problem, you don't actually have a business. You're just going to waste your time and money building something. I say that from a lot of experience. All right, so these are the target subreddits it's going to scrape. Search parameters, personal injury attorney, car accident lawyer, injury lawyer. Phase 2, concurrent analysis, 6 specialized agents. I love how they say the agents are spawned. They're spawned in parallel. So you're going to put the researcher, the code analyzer. I don't know why the code analyzer, but sentiment analysis, competitive intelligence, user journey mapper, content synthesizer. Wow. See how it's going above and beyond. I was like, just look at Reddit and like give me an idea of what's going on. And it's like going to go all the way. And then this is what it's going to look like. It's going to have a full outline here. And then it knows, it's going to run 990 Reddit posts. It's going to cost $2. We're ready to go. And now the best part is like, I leave this running and then I go do something else. So I generally have to stay by the computer. Sometimes I'll go like work out in the yard or whatever, and then I just have to come back in every 5-10 minutes because there are tools it's going to ask permission to use, and you got to give it the permission. You can run, dangerously, there's a tool, there's a flag you can run where it's like dangerously allow all permissions or something like that, and then it won't ask you for permission. But then if it makes a fuck up, then you're fucked. Like,
or if it runs your tokens or something.
If it says like remove home folder, then you don't want that. I guess remove.
Yeah, some tools call that YOLO mode.
YOLO.
Yeah,
right.
no, I think Anthropic calls it YOLO mode, right?
Yeah, they both root code and Anthropic, they both do it.
Yeah,
YOLO
code in YOLO mode. Dangerously skip permissions, yeah. So now I leave that there, and the reason I like to have a lot of monitors, I'm not at my workspace right now, but I have like 3 monitors, so I can keep these all open in the foreground so that I'm working on something else, and I might have another plan like that. Because, you just got to put in 10, 20, maybe 30 minutes on really getting the plan right. Like really like being really focused and attentive to this plan. And then once you do, then it'll just work for a while. And you can just put that over there, and then you got to be like, oh, wait a minute, it needs my permission. So you want to make sure you can see it. So when it stops and it asks for permission, you can give it permission. And then I normally have multiple projects going on, so I'll open up my next project and I'll do the same thing. We're diagnosing why my email automation system isn't working. So I'll carry this on from last night. I'll do the same thing. What's the plan? And then I'll basically send each of these agent teams out to do their job. So maybe, Ken, you might have something to say here in regards, because I'm unfamiliar with the traditional tech startup corporation hierarchy, right? But you were telling me there's like the senior lead developer who's in charge of delegating all the tasks. Then there's like the junior developer who does just all the bitch work, all the busy work, you just like doing all the like things that are easy if you know how to code, but you're not looking at the big picture. You're not the architect. So maybe there's a good parallel here in relation to this workflow, how I'm here just doing the big plan and then I'm sending the team off to do the work.
That actually is a good way of thinking about it. Somebody, the person who's the, I guess you might call them the lead. That would be your most senior person who's talking about application architecture, looking at the entire stack, looking at the business outcome they're trying to produce. They're closer to what the customer actually needs. And they've got the overall responsibility for everything that we do will roll up into the kind of outcome that we're looking for. Then you got the mid-tier who know enough about the low-level stuff that they can actually manage staff. They can organize projects around and say, okay, Jordan, I want you to be responsible for going out and building all of our scraper infrastructure so that it works, it's bulletproof, and anybody on the team can use it. So they'll build out discrete modules and be responsible for that implementation. And then your newer graduates or people who are not quite as experienced, you would have them be team members where you can go say, okay, great, Dino, I want you to go to work on building this portion of the larger subsystem that we're building. And then you're now working as a combined project team to roll all those results up into what you're ultimately going to ship to the customer. That's more of some might call that either a structured programming or some could also refer to that as like a DevOps model where you have multiple people coming together to actually build that thing out.
I think one of the things I've been learning over these last months is how important it is to have a good plan. And things do need to be delegated in the sense that even though I know I'm just telling an AI to do things, even though I know it's like spawning different sub-agents, the truth is each of those agents at every different step of the way is doing a different thing. And I've always just kind of been lazy about it. Like, it's just doing its thing. But like whatever it's doing, as long as it's achieving what I want, it's fine. But then as my projects get more complex, I realize it's not going to achieve what I want unless I really know what it's doing for each little task. So each little task is becoming more important to me, to understanding what those tasks are, how they're done, what are the what a success looks like. What does success look like for each of those tasks? Understanding all that and then really just being attentive to it. Not necessarily as it goes, but like we saw, we have that plan. We see what the main, like, what is it going to do? And we got 3 phases here. I don't think anything in here, like, how important is it for me to make sure the barrier analyst does a good job before the sentiment analyst? You know what I mean? Like, I'm just letting it do that. But if this was an actual app and it's saying, okay, first I'm gonna, I don't know, develop the authentication system, then I'm gonna make the user dashboard. Well, in that case, you're gonna wanna make sure it does the authentication right. And you're gonna wanna do a lot of testing before you even start building the dashboard. Otherwise, the dashboard might not be accessible and you might deal with all these middleware authentication routes that aren't working. And I say that once again from experience. So once again, depending on the project, maybe it's not as big of a deal to pay attention to each little thing, but having an understanding of each little thing is important. And now we wait, guys.
Well, and just one other thing about the planning piece, Jordan. So I think from a mechanical perspective, one of the things that a quote unquote traditional vibe coder probably would run into trouble with is that you think about, okay, you got a subsystem that you're calling out there that has to do something on behalf of the project. So thinking through, what does success look like? If you, well, as long as it gives me back the list of results, then I'm good. But it actually may not be the case. You might actually, depending upon the tool you're invoking, like with your choice of the MCP tools to go through and do the scraping, are you getting the right data fields back that you really believe you need long-term in order, or short-term, or whatever the periodicity is that you're trying to manage? Are you getting the right data fields back to do the thing that you want to do with? So it actually might require you going through and doing a couple different experiments with different tools to see the result sets that you get back. And then being able now to say, okay, great, I like this one because this gives me the right level of detail for the task that I'm trying to do. So thinking through like another layer down, like what does success look like? We can't just take it at a high level saying, well, does it give us a data set back? Sure, it does. But that may not be really what we actually need.
It's definitely something so detailed that it seems like sometimes you have to really get into every part. And sometimes you don't really have to. I guess there's some that just really happens and it's a template sort of part of it. But like specifically when it comes to the scraper, one of the things that I think I was stumbling upon the most was that, just like kind of Ken is kind of mentioning in a way, like, yeah, you're going to get everything, but that means you're going to get everything, which means that you might also get things that come with nothing, you know? So you might be requesting for leads in a certain area and you really need the address because obviously, you know, you want to show at least the address. And then Apify or any other scraper tool is really just giving you everything without address, with address, with phone number, without phone number. And then now you most likely would either set up a step on the scraper that it would actually filter other things out that don't have anything. And then the things that do, with a certain success rate of sorts, you just make it actually into a CSV, into whatever the final point of that data is. And it's a big deal because, you know, you are scraping for all of these. We're obviously spending somewhat of the money in that, and then we're only really using 20%, 30% of the data. And then how much is it that we're really paying per? Is it really 20 cents per thousand, or is it really $2-3 per thousand? You know, so from that perspective, I think it goes with what Ken and you are saying, that it's not just really getting the job done, it's really getting into the details and see, now what can I do about this? Can I avoid not getting businesses with addresses? You know, so on and so forth.
Right. And then the other thing that makes me think of what both you and Ken just said is, like, number one, right here when it calls the MCP server, it doesn't actually make a record of any of that. It's just stored in its memory. Like, it's just stored in its context. And I had a couple issues. Look, large MCP response. This can fill up context quickly, and it does. So it collected 1,602 items within budget. But look at this. Do you see a data set up here? No, it's all just in the memory of this conversation. So that happened to me and I lost it all. So I actually had to go into my Claude Code history and I ended up figuring it out. Now look what this says. I see the data has been retrieved. It appears to contain mostly irrelevant content not related to personal injury attorneys. The search terms cast too wide a net. So there's that, right? I could double check these search terms. Hey, you know, like personal injury attorney Florida, car accident lawyer Florida, finding personal injury. So I could have done that better. And then if you do it more step by step, I could have just said, store this data as a JSON file, right? Yeah. Or in a database. And then in a new conversation, I would then continue with this stuff. Like each one of these, like it's doing all of this in parallel now. it's putting all these agents in parallel: researcher, code analyzer, machine learning developer. I don't know why it's using that for sentiment analysis. I guess because it's good at the data. Competitive analysis, system architect, and content writer. It's putting all these guys out at the same time. And how to retrieve data set. Oh, it's having trouble retrieving the data set now. So that's interesting too. I haven't experienced that before, but you can't even get the data set back from.
Yeah, that's the only other thing. You know, I really fell in love with Root Code, and I think it's not only because you really have access to a lot of the LLMs in a way, and you obviously have to pay for it separately, but man, you can really keep track of the conversation and the way that it keeps context. Yeah. It's so awesome.
Which is why, like, Dino, you ask me a lot, should I use Claude Code instead of Root Code, blah, blah. I miss Root Code in a lot of ways. Like, some of its, like, system prompts were a little too bulky, and I would get a lot of, just my context would fill up fast. But I mean, a lot of these agents have really bulky system prompts too. There's a reason that Root Code and Claude Code allow you to have per project agents and global agents. And that's because if you keep everything in global, it's just going to waste space in the memory. And that's what I'm dealing with now, because I just have them all in there. But truthfully, is like, before you start a project, if you just did that, what you're saying, Drew, is, hey, like, what are the best agents for this job? And then you put them in as the per project modes agents. And then you only use those because that's all you need for this project. Once again, it all boils down to preparation. It's like, because I find, like me, I just like to execute. I'm like, let's just go. I want to see some work getting done. And I just say, start working, AI. But like, without a good plan, like what we're saying here, like, what agents do I need to do a good job? Then, it's less than optimal. Doesn't mean I won't get it done, but it's less than optimal.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely want to see the project already, like, live in action and everything. But I do feel there's a line where you need to be prepared, but you don't want to overthink it either, So it's almost like you want to do everything. And honestly, what I learned the most, even now working harder on this side of things, is like, yeah, it's important to have a PRD, absolutely, and it should be in detail, but you also have to understand that PRD is going to update every day,
Right. All right, here it is, Drew. Find a pain point solution document. Now I'll just say convert. I'll just make an HTML to a clean HTML file I can view. All right, let's check this out, and then we can close this call off. I didn't realize how late it was already. All right, personal injury attorney directory. So this goes back to our point, right? If we had looked at the search terms better, done a little more preparation, we would not have scraped irrelevant content, immigration questions, video game discussions, unrelated topics. But we did get some. Oh no, it didn't even use the data. Once again, Claude Code doing what I didn't ask it to. It used general knowledge of consumer behavior, competitive intelligence from public sources. Oh, it did research the web. That much it did. To create theoretical models. Confidence level is high. Well, that's cool. If I want to believe it. That's the other thing. We don't know when these AIs are lying to us.
Absolutely.
We're like, oh yeah. So Avo has a low trust rating. All right. So there it is. Trust credibility crisis. People don't trust the fake reviews. Personal injury attorneys. Information overload. Cost transparency gaps. Maybe they want to see how much these guys cost before they waste time on a phone call.
Absolutely not. And the cases are super overwhelming.
Is that your new directory, Drew?
It's a directory I was working on before. It's up. I just have to put the data in. It's one that I had done in WordPress.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking of switching it over into Vibe Code, but I'm working on the car mobile first.
Well, that's cool. I wouldn't have thought of this or really this, but I think this one too. And that's the type of thing. Yeah, you add those as features to your directory. You can beat the competition.
The attorney directory game is super locked. There's some big players in there, so that's why I kind of put it to the side for now and just really focus on the mobile one. But I still don't really see a directory that's truly focusing injury attorneys specific. So I'm still gonna use it anyways.
Well, if you make it consumer first, you have a big opportunity here if you can trust Claude. So this is the general workflow. I would say it's pretty obvious. Should probably put more time into each stage of it to make sure it's really good research. But I'm going to be making a course on this soon. I think it's really important. And I think this is the type of thing where it's like, once you start vibe coding something, you're like, wow, cool, I can kind of do anything. Once you start doing research like this, especially when it's scraped from real data, you're kind of like, oh, wow, I can learn anything. And you can synthesize these data points from around the internet and turn them into businesses. So there you have it, folks. This is the ultimate power of data-driven validation before you even start vibe coding. And it is vibe coding in a way. This is vibe building, or with doing things with AI collaboration. And something I've learned over time from doing lots of projects that just never took off is it's better to build not off assumptions, but off of data. Solve real problems. Don't shove solutions down people's throat telling them they have this problem. I promise you it won't work. Been there, done that many times. As you may have noticed, this workshop took place in our community. You can get the link below. We do these calls every week. We answer questions. We talk about what we're building, what we're vibe coding, and it's a lot of fun. We'd love to see you there. It's for everyone trying to harness AI better, work with AI as a collaborator. Whether you're a developer, slowly becoming a solopreneur, starting your own business, or you're a no-coder, slowly learning how to work with code, we all meet in the middle in the AI Captains community. So I hope to see you there. Thanks for subscribing, leaving some love on the video if you found this helpful. See you later.